Good day, everyone. I'm going to report to you about the Seastar. Seastar. So, what is Seastar? Seastar or starfish are beautiful marine animals found in a variety of colors, shapes, and sizes. All starfish are resemble stars, and though the most common have only 5 arms, some of these animals can grow up to 40 arms. These amazing creatures travel using their tube feet. They can also regenerate lost limbs and swallow large prey using their unusual stomachs. Starfish belong to the animal class Asteroidea. These echinoderms all have several arms arranged around a central disc. Asteroidea is the classification for true stars. These animals are in a separate class from brittle stars and basket stars, which have a more defined separation between their arms and their central disk. Taxonomic classification of sea star. Kingdom: Animalia. Phylum: Echinodermata. Superclass: Asterozoa. Class: Asteroidea. Scientific name: Asteroidea. Sea star that is commonly found in the Philippines. Its taxonomic classification. Kingdom: Animalia. Phylum: Echinodermata. Class: Asteroidea. Order: Valvatidae. Family: Oriesteridae. Genus: Protorester. Species: P. nodosus. Binomial name: Protorester nodosus. Getting to know about Protorester nodosus. It is the children's favorite, the chocolate chip starfish, or Protorester nodosus. It is a huge starfish mostly found in the Indo-Pacific region. A lot of them look a lot like chunky cookie with Hershey kisses all over. These starfish are gigantic compared to other species, and one can reach 30 centimeters, a foot across. Though others may be less than half of that, they wander across sand and in sea grasses, hunting out slow for snails, sponges, and coral. Chocolate chip starfish appear incredibly rigid and firm, but they are actually amazingly flexible when they want to be. They can arc themselves up on the tips of their 5 arms. This is the picture of a Protorester nodosus or the chocolate chip starfish. Characteristic of a starfish: hard plates under their skin instead of a backbone, spines or spicules covering the top or dorsal surface, hundreds of tube feet which help feeding and movement, a mouth that is located in the center of their bottom side, the ventral surface. When a sea star feeds, it is able to push the lower part of its stomach out through its mouth. The stomach then covers the prey and digestion begins. Structures in the end of their arms that help them to detect changes in light. A good sense of smell. The ability to regenerate a lost limb. Some sea stars can even regenerate a new animal from one limb. A complex network of nerves, called a nerve net, that serves the same purpose as the central nervous system in humans. The ability to reproduce by releasing a free-swimming larval stage, as well as through fission or asexual reproduction. This means that the sea star can physically divide itself into two to reproduce. Chemical defenses under their skin to defeat predators. Their average lifespan in the wild, up to 35 years. Its size, 4.7 to 9.4 inches. The weight, up to 11 pounds. Habitat and distribution of sea stars. Their habitat. Sea star habitats are highly variable. These animals can be found in all ocean basins of the world and at a large assortment of depths, and bottom composition. They are benthic animals, which means that they live on the ocean floor, whether in the intertidal zone, while others live in the deep water. In the deep sea floor down to at least 6,000 meters or 20,000 feet. They can frequently be found in tidal pools, mud, rocky shores, seagrass, kelp beds, and coral reefs. Distribution. The greatest diversity of species occurs in the coastal areas. Sea stars are purely marine animals. There are no freshwater sea stars, and only a few live in brackish water. The greatest diversity of species is found in the northern Pacific Ocean. Water parameters. pH between 8.1 and 8.4. Water hardness between 8 and 12 is ideal. Water temperature should be between 72 and 76 Fahrenheit. Feeding habits. Sea stars feed on clams, sponges, oysters, snails, and other small invertebrates. Some species feed on coral, and some filter feed for small organisms like plankton. Most species expel their stomach out of their body, and the stomach engulfs and digests the prey outside of the body. Diet. They are carnivore. Reproduction. Sea stars have two ways to reproduce. Male and female sea stars are hard to tell apart because they look identical, while many animal species reproduce using only one method. Sea stars are a little different. The many different species of starfish have different reproductive strategies. Sea stars can reproduce sexually. Most species have external fertilization, where the eggs and sperm are released into the water to be fertilized. Each starfish arm contains reproductive organs called gonads. These gonads store the gametes or reproductive cells which are released during fertilization. The sperm fertilizes the gametes and produces swimming larvae, which eventually settle on the ocean floor, growing into adult sea stars. The second way to reproduce is that asexually. It is through regeneration, which is what happens when the animals lose an arm. Ecological importance. Sea stars are important members of the marine environment and are considered a keystone species. A keystone species preys on animals that have no other natural predators, and if they are removed from the environment, their prey will increase in number and may drive out other species. Starfish plays an important role in the food chains of the North Atlantic and Mediterranean coasts of Europe and in surrounding areas, helping keep the spiny brittle stars from overpopulating these waters. Seastar acacius and Sticaster australis were identified as keystone predators. So these are the pictures of these predators. This one is Sticaster australis, and the other one is Seastar acacius. Economic importance. Some species of sea stars are being collected for seashell trade. The chocolate chip starfish, or Protorester nodosus, is being dried. It is also commonly known as Australian dagat or bituing dagat, and has a market value of 5 pesos per kilograms or fraction thereof. This species is being sold. Threats. The biggest threat to sea star are a reduction of coral reef habitat, pollution, and marked changes in water temperature. The main worldwide threat to sea star is thought to be the mysterious wasting syndrome, which is called the sea star wasting syndrome, SSW disease. This disease has persisted at low levels in most areas and continues to kill sea stars. Human threat. Human beings have polluted the water sources and destroyed their habitats and finally killed the sea star. Humans also use sea stars as source of entertainment and sell. One of the threats is overharvesting. In many tropical Asian and Pacific countries, where horned sea stars are collected for seashells trade, overharvesting reduces greatly the population of the echinoderms. A related species, the Atlantic Oriester reticulatus, commonly known as Bahamas seastar, also a once abundant species reduced in number due to the continuous harvesting by the industry and the tourists alike. Current trend and status of sea stars. In August 2021, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature added the sunflower sea star Pycnopodia helianthioides to its red list, classifying the species as critically endangered. The IUCN assessment noted that an outbreak of sea star wasting syndrome may be causing the deterioration and death of sea stars. Sea star wasting disease is a gruesome killer, causing lesions, contortions, lost limbs, disintegration, and death. Sunflower sea stars never recovered from being wiped out by the disease, and they have been declared critically endangered. Governing laws. Republic Act Number 8550, Section 97. Fishing or taking of rare, threatened, or endangered species. It shall be unlawful to fish or take rare, threatened, or endangered species as listed in the CITES and as determined by the Department. Violation of the provision of this section shall be punished by imprisonment of 12 years to 20 years and or a fine of 120,000 pesos and forfeiture of the catch and the cancellation of fishing permit. So let us now discover 10 fun facts about the sea stars. Number 1. They have no brain and no blood. Starfish use filtered seawater to pump nutrients through their nervous system. Fun fact number 2. They can live up to 35 years. Number 3. Starfish is not the right name. They should always be called sea star. They are actually related to sand dollars and sea urchins. Sea stars do not have gills, scales, or fins like fish do. So because they are not classified as fish, scientists prefer to call starfish as sea stars. Fun fact number 4. There are around 2,000 species of sea star. While many species live in tropical areas, you can also find sea stars in the cold waters of the earth, even in the polar regions. Number 5. They cannot survive in fresh water. Number 6. They can regenerate. But it takes a while. It can take up to a year for a lost limb to grow back. Number 7. They eat inside out. When they capture prey, they have tiny suction cups to grab a hold of their food. Then their stomach exits their mouth to digest the food and re-enters the body when they are done eating. Fun fact number 8. Sea stars reproduce in 2 ways. As what I have said earlier, they produce sexually and asexually. Fun fact number 9. Brittle stars are the sea stars' cousins. Brittle stars, or Ophiuroidea, are a group of echinoderms that resemble starfish. There are about 1,500 species of brittle stars alive today, and most species inhabit marine habitats with depths greater than 1,500 feet. There are a few species of shallow water brittle stars. These species live in the sand or mud just below the low tide mark. They often live amongst coral and sponges as well. Brittle stars inhabit all of the world's ocean and live in a variety of climate regions, including tropical, temperate, and polar waters. Fun fact number 10. They can have up to 40 arms. While you might be most familiar with the 5-armed species of sea stars, not all have just 5 arms. Some species have many more arms. For instance, the sun star can have up to 40 arms. This is the example of a sun star. And that's all for today. Thank you for listening, and God bless everyone.